So hello and welcome everyone to our intro to peak performance this evening. Thank you all so much for being here. Very grateful. And so we'll just kind of talk through components of peak performance in terms of kind of my understanding and experience with them. You all may have your own understanding and experience of them, and this is definitely a place if you want to share things that have worked for you. That's great because we can all learn from each other. There's not really a one size fits all for a lot of this stuff because everybody's got their own alchemy of experience and belief systems and resonance and the things that align for them. Um, so we can kind of talk through um, kind of foundations of what works for people, but then the details are kind of up to you to kind of play with and see what works. Let's see. Shun intention is to allow myself time and space to breathe and relax, to know how to nurture myself, particularly when we're stressed out and not just when I'm at my peak. I love that. That is perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So I did a recording last week on flow states. So I won't go much into that tonight. So that might be worth watching as well. It's on my YouTube channel and I think it's on my website too. I'm pretty sure it is. I'll double check. Um, but so that might have some things that are useful for that too. But yeah, I think that exactly having that space and time for yourself, nurturing yourself is, if you don't have that, it is very hard to reach a peak state or be in that alignment of how you really want to operate, how you really want to live. But I think that's a great intention. Thank you so much. So I've been training with Flow Genome Project over the last few years. I've just finished a professional certificate in altered state psychedelics and transpersonal psychology with the Aleph Trust. And just my final paper with them was on flow states and how that leads into peak performance. So this is something I've been researching, living, breathing, reading about, listening to for intently for the last couple of years. And still am learning new stuff and finding it all really fascinating and interesting. And again, there's lots of different mentalities to be in with it. There's ways to get into it. And I think it's really interesting because a lot of the stuff that you see online or that you I don't know, hear about in podcasts and things like that, they tend to be with people who are in that realm of kind of high performance. So people who are competitors, athletes, people who are kind of CEOs, very high, fast worlds of, tend to be lots of money, lots of lots of people in their businesses, things like that, high pressure, things like that. So Silicon Valley. And also even things around kind of military and Navy SEALs, kind of these elite forces. So those have been kind of the areas that have gotten more of the focus and attention and kind of research within them. My fascination comes with the idea that we, as all human beings, can access these states and are able to tap into these ways of living and being. It's not just for people in specific industries or specific roles or jobs. So that's kind of been my fascination, is how as we can, as real human beings, be more than just little human beings without losing our humanness too, though. And there's a lot of information out there, which I'm hoping to kind of dispel some of the myths and get people out of some unhealthy thinking around this stuff, because there's a lot of stuff around kind of flow hacking. It's kind of that, what's the quick short fix into this? And people essentially kind of this idea of getting high as opposed to getting into a peak. And so what happens on a lot of fronts is that, we are all seeking flow states and peak states. Like, this is us kind of at our best, when we're feeling our best, when we're feeling really aligned, when we're feeling at home within ourselves. when we are kind of living, that alignment with our values, that alignment with our gifts. If you want to call that kind of dharma, purpose, what you're here to do and be. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But that's kind of when we're stepping into that. And because we know as human beings that there are ways that we can alter our states so that we can click into these things. We can really enter into these states or phases or behaviors. But what happens is that we get really caught up, and you see this online and all over the place with things like manifesting and things like this. People are looking for what's the quick, easy answer. It's that I'm just going to win the lottery and take care of it. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, I wouldn't refuse it. But the reality is that anything that is a hack or a quick fix or that quick, cheap high is never going to last. It's never really going to give a meaningful change because it's something that's too surface. And so, I've read kind of Atomic Habits and books like that, and they have some great tips in them. Don't get me wrong. I've learned some good stuff in there. But in reality, until you start to get below the surface with the behavioral changes, it doesn't actually do anything. It's not going to last. And actually, you got to put in so many hacks and quick fixes that you lose track and it's not worth it. And the reality is that if you go deep enough into really understanding the why behind what you're doing and understanding the inspiration behind it, it makes those changes much easier. They're much easier to maintain because they're a deeper part of who you are and a deeper part of your why. So hopefully this will kind of get us out of this, again, this idea, this notion of I'm just seeking that quick hack, that quick fix, that quick high. I mean, a lot of what people are doing with this stuff as well is they're seeking out dopamine highs, and I mean, it feels good. Dopamine feels amazing. So dopamine's that hit that we get when we do something that's, well, what they said for a long time is that it's that hit we get when we do something that's good for us. So when we eat, when we have sex, when we do something that's for our betterment. But actually what they've realized is that it's actually more the anticipation of doing the event is what gives you the dopamine hit. So what happens is people get caught up, and society right now, technology, man, it is set up for dopamine. So all the quick, easy, fast food, that fat, salt, sugar, it's so delicious because we get amazing hits of dopamine from it. We feel really good for about 5 minutes, then we feel really bad for about 5 hours. And that's the idea. If it's too easy, if it's too cheap, if it's too fast, probably not great for you. We get it from scrolling on our phone. Like TikTok is the dopamine producing machine because every minute you're getting a hit. Every minute you're getting a new video. And you can do this on YouTube. You can do this on any of these social media. So people get in, and we do that. And you're on Netflix. I found it too. You just keep scrolling and watching the previews for the movies and watching it. And I'm like, oh, this is so fun just to watch the previews. And I'm like, oh, okay, I know why now. I know why I'm enjoying this so much. It's because it's another exciting thing. After 2 minutes, I get another exciting thing. So I mean, for me, I've just found that kind of starting to have this awareness around things and kind of what sucks my energy, what sucks my time, what takes takes me away from what I actually want to be doing, what actually is healthy for me. So that's why I talk about that now, is just kind of having that awareness and kind of questioning of, is this the best way for me to spend my time? Is this actually contributing in some way? Because sometimes when we get really tired, exhausted, burned out, that's when people get to the point where all they want to do is lay on the couch and scroll through Netflix. I mean, that's definitely, you've moved too far into unhealthy boundaries, not being able to say no to stuff. Like there's definitely things that need to be addressed within that if you're in that exhausted state and this is all I can do. definitely some adjustments to be made. We can talk a little bit more about that at the end. But for me, when we're looking at things like peak states and peak performance, what we're really looking at is the quality of life that you want to lead and the type of impact that you want to have. And when I say impact, that could be your friends and family. It could be your small circle at work. It might be a wider community that you're connected with. It could be online, in person. It's also recognizing that sometimes the impact goes further than we can predict, or, that ripple effect. But, we're all here to live a purpose. We're all here to do things and connect with people and, to be of service. And I think that, what we found over and over again is that when people are not having some type of impact, they are unfulfilled. They feel that they are lacking and that their life is lacking. And that is because we know that we are meant for something more than scrolling through Netflix on the couch. So yeah. So for me, this is more than just I'm looking at peak performance so I can go climb Everest to get the Instagram shot. Oh my God, that stuff makes me crazy. That FOMO stuff. Oh, I just gotta go do that. Or peak performance as an ego boost because it makes me look good. It makes me feel good in those surface ways. Don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against the ego. I think there's loads of good stuff with it. It's our personality, it's our sense of humor. There's loads of good stuff with it. But if we're operating in that shadow side of it, of I'm just trying to get likes, I'm just trying to get clicks, I'm just trying to get people to notice me because I wasn't noticed as a child, all those things we try to compensate with, that is not peak performance. That is putting on a performance or putting on a show to try to fill a gap or fill a hole that is not actually going to be fulfilled by that. So when I look at peak performance, it really is this notion of I am living in alignment with who I really am and doing what I'm really meant to be doing. That's really what it's about. And if we can kind of shift a lot of those, again, a lot of the ideas and attitudes around peak performance and really get into the heart of it, then it's actually a much more profound and deeply moving way to live your life than just looking at, well, how well am I doing at the gym for the hour that I'm there? Or, did I get that raise, or, again, these external things that we're looking for, that we're seeking, that are, again, very temporary, and may not really, again, they don't really fill the gap. They don't really fulfill us in the way that we hope or dream that they will. So if there's any questions so far, go ahead and feel free to type in the chat. So I'll talk through a few other components. And hopefully this will more than make sense. So when I look at peak performance, for me, a lot of that is built on looking at your conscious boundaries and then looking at how you are living in flow. Because if you don't have those in place, it's very hard to get into these notions around peak states or peak performance. If the foundations are too messy, if there isn't some structure, if there isn't some practice, if there isn't something in place to help set that up, it makes moving into peak performance very difficult. So if you think of, peak performance for a marathon runner, which is being able to run, was it 26 miles in what's a good time, 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that. If they're looking at peak performance, that's, they're going to have a set time that they're aiming for. They're going to have a set kind of pace, fitness level that they're aiming for. They don't get that from sitting on a couch and eating crisps all day. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. There has to be a practice. There's got to be a training. There's got to be something in place, and there's got to be a deeper motivation there for them to really do it. Because people who I do not like to run. I'm not going to run a marathon. You can't make me run a marathon and you can't make me train for a marathon. But there are some people that have that within them. There's a deeper inspiration. There's something there within them that moves them to make those choices and to choose those behaviors and choose those actions. So yeah, so it really is kind of looking at what are the daily choices that I'm making? What are the choices I'm choosing over and over and over again that are contributing to where I want to be and what I want to be doing, and which ones are not? And oftentimes there's a combination of both. So for me, to start, it's really kind of looking at, well, what are the things that are not contributing? Those are the things that can go first. Start cutting those things out. And and they can be, again, they can be small kind of behavioral things that you recognize there's an emotional component to that need to change because they're not healthy. They can be bigger shifts in your life, bigger shifts with your time, differences in the way you utilize your energy. But yeah, there's got to be that recognition and willingness to kind of go through that. Um, and once it makes it easier when you start to do that. You start to feel healthier and clearer and more aligned, because when the idea of integrity is that what you say, think, and do all match up. And the more integrity you have with your choices and what you're doing, the more in alignment you are. And if you think of yourself as like a channel for flow or a channel for energy, which we all are, um, you've got to have an alignment in order for things to match up and line up for that energy to flow through. If your priorities are all over the place, if you're struggling to find things that match, if they're conflicting with each other, if there's oppositions, things like that, it just really makes it hard to kind of streamline things and make it simpler, not simplified, but simple. So that you can be in that. And what happens is when you really get into that alignment, kind of body, mind, and spirit, that itself can start to take you into an altered state, into a flow state, just by doing that. But what that also does is it helps you to connect in more with whether you want to call that soul or higher self, kind of these higher aspects of us that are more divine, that are more kind of all-knowing, understanding, higher perspective. Those parts of us that, again, really know who we are and why we're here. So yeah, so for me, it really is about kind of seeking out that alignment. So, like, as an example, I know that part of my alignment, part of my purpose in this lifetime is to be a healer and to be a teacher. I know that that's within me. It's been shown and practiced over and over and over again for years. It's always been part. These two things have always been part of my life, whether I was consciously or unconsciously choosing it, or things were just unfolding for me. So if I was going to stop meditating, if I was going to refuse to connect with my intuition, if I was just going to spend all day on the couch letting my brain rot watching crap on TV, I'm going to have a hard time doing what I'm meant to do, right? Because to be good at those things, I have to have a healthy practice for myself, for my body, for my spirit, for my mental health. There've got to be some things that I do on a regular basis for my own knowledge and understanding, because I'm interested in it. It's aligned, it's part of my purpose. I love it. I'm really interested in it. It's not something I'm fighting or I'm resisting. But there's also that awareness of, well, if I'm actually going to do it and feel fulfilled and be good at it, there are things that I put into place to do that. So making choices about how I spend my time then becomes clearer and easier for me to do that. Because if I'm asking the question, does me reading this book or listening to this story, or I don't know, spending time meditating, does that contribute to the life I want to live and the way that I want to be of service, and to me being the best version of this that I can be? And if it's an easy yes, then it's an easy yes. And now, don't get me wrong, there are days where we're all human beings. There are days where our stuff can get in the way, or we start to justify or we can go, oh, I can just let this slip for a day and then a week and then a month. Don't get me wrong, we all go through that. So again, this is where it comes back to what is the practice and what are the choices that I'm going to make on a daily basis to do that. So you can get really clear with, what is non-negotiable for you. What are the things that you can just make a choice and either be done with it or it is a part of your life. Meditation is a daily part of my life. I've made that choice. I don't even argue with myself about it anymore. It's just something I do every day. I may do different types of meditation for different lengths at different times, but it is just a part of my day. Yeah, so again, it's looking at, again, whatever your priorities are, whatever you feel your calling is in life, and then saying, what are the things that are going to help to cultivate that, to help bring that out, to make it more real and present and not just an idea. Yeah. And yeah, let me know if there's any questions about that. I mean, something that I will share with you on like a practical level, and this is something I come back to. It's not a hack or a quick fix, but it's some good awareness to have because we often, what we like to do as human beings is we look for the easy option. It's a very our subconscious mind goes, what's the easiest thing that I can do? But it doesn't always ask what's the easiest thing that's going to work. And so we will often choose things that feel easy, but that don't actually solve a problem or that don't actually get you any further. So it's that, this glorification of busyness is a great example of it. All these people, you get really praised for, I worked 50 hours a week. I did this and did 800 things. And then don't feel any better within their body, within their mind. There's nothing's really been produced that is helpful or useful for them. They've just done loads of stuff. They've used up a bunch of time. And so what they found, and this, I think this was started with economics, and it's been applied to all these different other industries. And I'm probably going to get the exact question wrong, but however you word this is going to work. The idea is that actually you can usually boil it down to, if you change 20% of what you're doing, so if things aren't working, they're not clicking, something needs to change. You figure out what 20% needs to change, and that has an impact on 80% of the outcome. When I heard that, I was like, oh my God, yes. Let's do that. So yeah, so again, this is something where you can really, and it takes you following your intuition and kind of meditating on that and getting some clarity on it. Because if you're trying all the options and nothing's working, that's when you say, okay, well, what's the one thing I can change or the one thing I can do differently? It's probably the thing on some level you're resisting and you're not wanting to do. And that's why you haven't gotten there yet. So that makes it the harder option on some level, but it also makes it the easier option because it's the thing that's going to work and the thing that's actually going to make things shift. So that's something I would look at. If there's something, an area of your life, an aspect, a problem, an issue that's not shifting, kind of going, what's the one choice or that little thing that I can tweak or change that's actually going to have an impact on what's happening here, and do that. Simplify your life. Yeah. Yeah. So, what I'll do in a couple minutes is I'll take us into a meditation so you can get a feel of kind of a peak state or a peak, being in that state of flow. But before we go into that, I'll talk to you a little bit more about peak states, and you all probably have great examples of how this works for you or what brings this out for you. So feel free to share in the chat or anything. So when we're looking at peak states, I mean, this is for me, this is a flow state plus often. So we can have lower level flow states where we're doing our work, where we're operating and, we're just clear, we're aligned, the answers are coming, we're performing really well. Things just feel graceful and not necessarily automatic, but your body, your mind knows what to do. We can do this in kind of daily elements. When we start looking at peak states, it's exactly what it sounds like. This is, but also again, different from a high. So a peak state is when you are connected with that essence or element of what is beyond human. So it's often when we feel more connected with the world or other people or all that is. There's often elements of kind of where time becomes different. The quality can speed up or slow down. That element of kind of timelessness is in. We lose a sense of self. So we kind of get out of that, all the ego stuff of, I've got to prove who I am and I've got to show up as this identity and I've got to play this role and, I've got to be me, 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 me. And you kind of lose a bit of a sense of that. It can expand more into the we or all. There's often an effortlessness with it because again, there's a looseness with things. And so instead of pushing, forcing, trying to make things happen, you're just in that state where it's more of an allowing. And there's a richness that comes with that. And I wrote about this earlier today, this notion of richness and the quality of richness. And like every time, even just saying the word richness, I start to think about like food and wine and things like that, things that are really full bodied and complex and feel really, there's just a lot to it. Not in an overwhelming way, but just in a way that just feels very complete and fulfilling. And so with these peak states, there is that feeling with it too. You're not lacking in things. You're not seeking or searching for that one other thing that needs to be there. So, when we're stepping into these states, we're actually really entering into the deep now. And when we are in that deep now, again, this is where we are most aligned with that sense of higher self. So body, mind, spirit are all connected and aligned. It is where we are most present and aware. It is where, we're just really here. That's just kind of the best way I can put it. We're alert and aware, but it's a relaxed alertness. It's not an anxious alertness. It's not a hypervigilance. So when I think about kind of peak states, the ones that kind of I've realized earlier on in my life was going to live concerts and live theater, like good live theater, not all live theater. And it has to be a good band or a good concert too. So what happens, and with the concerts, the music is a part of it too. We know that music has its own consciousness and energy. There's a rhythm, there's a beat, there's something, music alters your state really easily. It's definitely a quick or easy way to kind of alter your state. But especially when you are in a group of people that is a part of it. So even if we're not all on stage playing instruments, we're listening to the music, we're all enjoying it. We are, if people are dancing along to it, there's movement to it, everybody's kind of breathing together. There's this rhythm and this connection through the group, and groups of people will amplify each other. So it's actually easier to move into a peak state within a group. If the group is coherent and they're all kind of in a similar state or able to kind of tap into that. And you can see this in concerts or with DJs where, things maybe kind of have died down and everybody's kind of dancing or talking. And then all of a sudden the beat drops and kicks in and everybody's together again. And you can really feel the state of energy change. And, the same with a play or something. Again, there's a story to follow. There's something that kind of draws you in. You're connected emotionally. there's things there that help to kind of bring you in so that again you're connected into something that is more than you. You may be able to resonate or see parts of yourself in that story or things like that. Um, but with each of those elements, again, you're not worried about the time. You're not stressing about how your hair looks. You're not getting caught up in these little ego elements or the little worries of the day that actually aren't that big of a deal, that don't really matter that much in the long run. So you really are in that deeper, that more present now, and that element of this is who I really am. And this is what it feels like to be connected with that energy of higher self, soul, the divine me. Um, and I think the more that we can experience those states, I mean, even if you experience it once, you've got a reference point. You know what it feels like. So you can go back to it. It becomes easier and easier to go back to it. So for me, it's about really looking at, how do I schedule my life? How do I create experiences? Who do I surround myself with so that I can have these? I mean, not on a daily basis. We're not really meant to be in peak state. Well, I mean, I'm sure you could argue with me about that. That'd be fine. But what would that be, to just live in a peak state? Oh my God. You wouldn't get anything done. Pretty happy though. So I guess if your purpose means you need to get some stuff done, you're probably not going to be in a peak state all the time. But I think that, and especially the last few years where we've had, lockdowns and feelings of disconnection, we haven't been able to travel or make plans. Ugh, I mean, people have really suffered through that. It's been a big struggle. And part of that is because we have missed out on these experiences of connection and of, moving into these higher realms. So for me, it's important to like make that a part of your real life, to schedule that in, to seek these things out. For some people, it's, skydiving is their thing. Or I met somebody who recently was saying that she did hang gliding. And she was like, that's the most amazing I've ever felt because of the freedom, and she just said it was incredible. Yeah, some people hit those states when they're running or lifting weights or, involved in some kind of sport, the movement. I mean, again, movement's a great way to start to move into those states as well. The body loves that. Yeah. So it's really figuring out what are the things that prime you for that you find it, I don't know, easier, you can flow into that. And to like really do it, like buy the tickets for the concert or buy the plane tickets to go on that trip, or, if traveling's your thing, really do it. Like if running does it for you, diary it in every day or 4 days or however often you do it to move yourself into those states. And like honor it, because for me, these are our reminders that we are divine and that we're not meant to live just a mundane, boring, meaningless life. So I know, because people are like, I don't have time, I don't have energy, I don't have, all the excuses. Aren't excuses fun? But in reality, we're denying ourselves of living as who we really are in that higher energy. So yes, I really encourage people to just, again, to allow that to be a regular part of their life. So, if I can, every month I'm booking a live show or a live concert or performance, more often if possible. So yeah, and I travel as and when I can, because for me, that's one of the values there. So, so I would really encourage you to do that, because the more you get the feel for it, the easier it is to tap into that. And when you have that feel of what it is to be in a peak state, operating in it, you learn to do that too. Because actually peak performance is just taking that peak state and allowing it to be grounded and allowing it to inspire you. Because if you can get the same peak experience by living your purpose, by doing what you're here to do, and you can have elements of that for sure, then it's going to make it much easier for you to do it. And it's going to make it easier for you to have an impact on others and be of greater service as well. So yeah, so it's worth just kind of playing with those ideas and kind of asking, well, if I could live, if my conversations could be in that high vibration, if they could be really aligned and authentic and honest, if my work relationships could be really healthy and clear and clean, and where I was just so aligned with my work and operating so well that things just went really well. If I could be like that with my friendships or with my partner, you know, life can change. And when we really allow ourselves to kind of be in those states, all of it can change. And I know some areas of life sometimes need a little bit more work than others. That's fine. But if you can get that going in one area of your life, you can get it going in other areas too. It's all connected. Definitely. Um, so the last thing I wanted to talk to you about before the meditation is just kind of the 3 V's, just to break it down. I find if you can have just a quick sentence or reference, it makes it easier to just remember to, oh yeah, I should pay attention to that. So it's looking at values, virtues, and vision. So your values are what you value. It's what you find is fulfilling or exciting or interesting. It's the ways you value spending your time, your energy, your connections. And that is going to be a little bit different for everyone. Again, not everyone wants to be training for marathons, but some people love it. So if you really figure out what your values are, what you value in terms of your time, your energy, your connections, the way you show up, the way you communicate, all of those things, then you can start to say no to the things that you don't value in your life, so that you can replace them with something better. And the more aligned you are, the easier it is to move into flow, the easier it is to move into peak. And the second is your virtues, which are your gifts. And these might be gifts that you were born with. They could be gifts that you have cultivated over practice. I mean, even ones that you're born with, you usually still have to work at and cultivate. You have a kind of proclivity or conditioning, or it's like you're primed for certain gifts and virtues. And I think that if we are living our purpose, we're using our virtues. That's what they're there for. They're there to support us in that. So I think that learning what our gifts and what our virtues are helps us to live more in alignment with our purpose. And again, we know that when we are, they've done loads of studies around this, but yeah, they've shown over and over again that we are most fulfilled and most happy when we are living our gifts and our strengths. When we're just trying to do stuff we're not good at, that are our weaknesses, that we're just not going to be good at because they're not part of our natural makeup or inclination, we suffer, we hate it, we struggle. And absolutely, it's worth learning some things and trying things outside of that little, your comfort zone and stuff. It's worth giving things a go. But, I mean, I took 7 years of piano lessons and I am shit at playing the piano. It's not going to happen. I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot from it. And now I can appreciate other people that are great at it. But I am not going to be a professional piano player ever. And trying to make me be one would make me miserable. Yeah. So really allowing yourself to take that time to recognize what are my gifts, what's unique for me, what are the things that I'm naturally drawn to, what are the things that just make sense on some level. And that, I think a lot of people get caught up in what's going to contribute to my work, and I would argue that this could also be like your hobbies or for fun, because anything you do for yourself just for the joy of it will make you better at your work anyway, on some way, shape, or form. It'll do it, even if it's just because it makes you a happier person. But again, anything that's in alignment with those gifts is going to feed into other areas and make other areas stronger, or yeah, simpler, whatever it is that you're looking for. So yeah, allow yourself to cultivate your gifts and just have fun with it, play with it. And then the last bit is your vision, which is, again, it's that what's your vision for the future? What's your vision for right now? um, and really, I mean, I definitely am not looking for perfection. I think it's a total illusion. You can never reach it. It's not even real. And we don't always know every step of the way. We rarely know every step of the way exactly what's going to happen. But somebody said this, and I can't remember who. Unfortunately, I would give them credit because it's genius. But they were talking about, they were like, just get directionally correct. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can get that. Because if I can just get directionally correct, then it means I'm going to be going in the right direction. And I can figure out the details as I'm going. Because what happens is if you just sit and wait, nothing happens. You get no clarity. Nothing's there because there's no energy. There's no movement to it. So if you can just figure out the direction and maybe the next step, it will start to come and you'll start to build momentum and things like that. So yeah, if you can get directionally correct and just get an idea of where you're wanting to be, where you're wanting to go, what you're wanting to be doing, then that alignment and those gifts are going to help to get you there. And you can change it up and alter as needed. If you veered off track a little bit, that's okay. Yeah. So let me know if there's, let's see. Why do we deny ourselves, particularly when we are stressed? That's what I do anyway. That's a great question. Yeah. So it could be a couple different things, and let me know if what I say does not apply to you, and I'll try again. But usually what happens is when we're stressed is we feel either we're exhausted or we're overwhelmed. So with an exhaustion, there's just nothing left in the tank. So you don't do the fun stuff because you're like, there's nothing there to do it with. I can't go meet a friend for coffee, or I can't go to a concert because I can't get off the couch. If it's overwhelmed, that's just kind of that we go into that fight, flight, freeze, fawn kind of stress response, where we go into just survival mode. And when we're overwhelmed, the brain just kind of shuts down. If there's too many choices, too many things, the mind struggles to cope. And so the answer is just to go, well, I just won't do any of it. Or I'll only do the things that I know that I have to do right now, kind of fighting fires. Yeah, so usually it's kind of what I found is it's kind of one of those two things. Although if there's something else that you would add to that, I would love to hear that. That would be great. And I think there could also be potentially some stuff around maybe kind of self-worth, self-punishment, self-criticism thing where people can go, there we go. Self-punishment. Yeah. Yeah, because it's that thing of, well, I haven't done what I'm supposed to do, so I can't reward myself, or I can't, and subconsciously we're so hard on ourselves because we think, well, if I reward myself or I'm too nice to myself, I won't get done what I need to get done. So it's an effort to try to motivate us to get up and do it, but it never works. It never works when we're that critical because it just shuts us down as well. So we get into this inner conflict and go back and forth. Yeah, so I would look at things around, what are the judgments about me? Why do I feel like I need to punish myself? And could I just recognize that I'm a human being and that I'm working it out and going through this stuff and figuring it out along the way, and just like everybody else is. And maybe get out of that stuff around, because deserving is all belief system stuff. Like, who even decides what we deserve, right? So it's kind of asking that question of, well, who determines that? Why don't I? Because when you start to question that stuff, it starts to fall apart. It can't really hold because there's nothing real holding it in place. It's just these old belief systems that are built on each other. Yeah. And who determines what deserving is? How do you even measure that? Like the more you ask, the more you're like, it doesn't even make sense. So I would start to question those things and say, well, actually, yeah, it is, because we're meant to enjoy our lives. We're not meant to just be workhorses or suffering or all those other fun things that we as humans can kind of hold on to or believe over time. Definitely. Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. So I think what we'll do is we'll do a little meditation just to get a feel. Um, and then and then we'll do some final questions at the end. So just get into a comfortable position. Um, we're not going to do too long, so if you want to just sit there, that's fine. If you want to lie down, that's fine too, but don't fall asleep. So let's just start with taking in a couple nice deep breaths. And if you can breathe in and out through your nose, if your sinuses are open enough, what happens is when you breathe in and out through your nose, it just helps to kind of down regulate your nervous system. It all calms down really quickly. So it's a really nice, simple way to just calm your mind, calm your body. Yeah, just take everything down a few notches. Just in and out through the nose is really simple. And you don't need to worry too much about how fast or slow you're breathing, but just imagine that you're really filling and emptying your lungs. Most of the time we're shallow breathing. If you want to, you can imagine that this air is moving into all of your cells, all of your organs. So it's nourishing every part of you, not just your lungs. And as you're focusing on your breath, also notice that your muscles are relaxing and that your joints are softening. So anywhere you tend to hold tension, for a lot of people it's the jaw, the neck, shoulders, back, hips. But if there's anywhere else you hold tension as well, just breathe into those areas. You feel it all soften. So all we're doing here is moving into a little bit more of a flow state. So these alpha and theta brain waves where we're more relaxed. Our minds are open, we're less fixed. And as we move deeper into these states, this is where we move into clarity, understanding, healing. This is where we start to move into flow. Just stay with that rhythm of breathing in and out. That rhythm of your breath, and the breath moving the energy through your body as well. So that any areas that have been stagnant or fixed can start to loosen up and soften and flow as well. And just imagine that your field of energy, your 7 chakras that go from your head all the way down to your root, those 7 energy centers are moving into alignment, just up and down the column of your spine, your neck, your head. So sometimes they can feel a little bit out of sync, a little bit out of body. They may feel closed off or heavy. Just imagine that with every breath, They're moving into alignment with your spine, your heart, your mind. That those energy centers are open. And again, that everything is more in flow. And as those energy centers are more aligned up and down your spine, also imagine that your energy is expanding out through your body and beyond your body. So as our energy expands, there's more space, there's more time, there's less tension, less control. So we are less fixed in our identities and more in flow with who we really are on some deeper levels. So just keep breathing and allowing your energy to expand beyond your body, through the room, through your home, through your city, through the world. And take a deep breath and feel your energy expand beyond this planet and out into the solar system, the galaxy, the universe. This isn't something you're pushing or forcing. This is something you are allowing. And recognize that you are expanded out into the universe, to all that infinite space and time. But you're still connected with your human body in your seat in this lifetime right now. So you are present in a location, but you're also connected and expanded out through all of existence. And if it feels like your mind is struggling with some of these concepts, just breathe into your head, breathe into your mind, so it can start to open up and understand. So as you're in this expanded state, I want you to bring your focus to your heart. And your heart is that meeting point of human and divine, heaven and earth. It's where we connect with love and joy. It's where we feel our connection with ourselves and with others. It's that seed of compassion and courage. So take a moment and go deep into your heart. Again, if you're noticing any barriers or heaviness or anything that your heart's hanging on to, just keep breathing into that so it can loosen off, so it can resolve. Because the more open our hearts are, the easier it is to move into flow and peak states, to live as our higher selves. So just feel the energy within and around your heart relaxing and opening and softening. And just recognize that capacity for love, for joy, for happiness, fulfillment, peace, gratitude. All the good things in life are felt there in your heart. And allow that heart energy to spread throughout your body, through all of your energy. Just notice that your body aligns a little more. You feel a bit more connected with that higher self, with that energy of you as a soul. And you're just really allowing yourself to be present in the now, in this moment. And while you're in this heart energy, I want you to think back to a time in your life where you were in a peak state, even if it was just for a moment. And you may have multiple stories or moments to choose from. So just pick whichever one feels the best for you to connect with right now. I want you to take a moment to think about your surroundings, where you were, who you were with. It may have been the land that contributed to that. It may have been the building, may have been the people there, may have been the occasion. And allow your senses to be present in that moment. What did it sound like? What did it smell like? What were you able to see? What were you able to feel? And just allow all that information to be present within you. Even if you can't remember every detail, your body does, your mind does, your spirit does. Just allow yourself to recognize the ingredients or the alchemy that contributed to you being in that peak state, or to you performing at your best, operating at your best, being at your best. And allow your body to remember all of this. Allow these feelings to move through your cells, through your energy field, to all aspects of you. Because if you know what it feels like, it's easier to choose it again, to create something similar. And let it fill your heart. And feel your heart energy growing stronger, more courageous, more aligned. Just take a few nice deep breaths into that feeling. And ask yourself what you can do in the next few days, weeks, months that can help you tap into some of these feelings and these experiences again. What are things you can do on a regular basis? What are things you can do monthly or quarterly or yearly? That help you tap into these feelings. And let your intuition guide you. Let your intuition give you some answers. It might be things you've never tried before. Or it might be something you just haven't done in a while that you've denied yourself. Whatever insights or clarity that you can receive now, just allow yourself to be open to that information in whatever way you receive it. And you can ask to receive that now. You can also ask to receive that through synchronicities and information over the coming days. Whatever feels fun for you. So take a last moment or two to ask your intuition, ask yourself if there's any information or guidance to receive. The answers are always within you. You can always come back to yourself and ask for more guidance. When you're ready, take a few nice deep breaths. And then you can open your eyes. Thank you so much.